is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Secretary Austin, General McKenzie, General Milley, for being here today. It's a very important hearing that we're having here. I appreciate the committee's urgency in making this happen. While there was bipartisan support for withdrawal from Afghanistan, there were differences in opinion on how that should have been conducted. Something we should all be able to agree on is that the withdrawal should have been conditions-based and there should not have been any political motivation involved in this decision, which I don't think was the actual case. But, General Milley, I'd like to ask you, how often were you in contact with your Chinese counterpart discussing our evacuation efforts in Afghanistan?
0.
Okay.
And I agree with you, conditions-based.
General Milley, on August 18th, you were quoted as saying, the time frame of a rapid collapse was widely estimated and ranged from weeks to months, and even years following our departure. There was nothing that I or anyone else saw that indicated a collapse of this Army and this government in 11 days. Between the 18th and the 21st of June, in just 4 days, 21 districts in 9 provinces fell to the Taliban, and the Afghan security forces quickly surrendered and abandoned their post. This was an obvious beginning to the end of the Afghan army and to the Taliban takeover. General Milley, what were you doing during this time frame? Before you answer that question, let me tell you, you were just 2 days prior to when these provinces fell, you were here in our committee on June 23rd. You sat before this committee and you listed some of your concerns that we talked in depth about. One was defending critical race theory in the military, telling us you want to understand white rage, telling us how offended you were to be labeled as woke, and worrying about what caused American civilians to enter the Capitol on January 6th. I submit to you that perhaps we would not have had 13 service members and hundreds of Afghans killed, 18 service members wounded, and countless U.S. citizens abandoned and left as Taliban hostages if you had been more focused on your duty to this country instead of defending and pandering to the Biden administration's woke social experiment with the United States military, doing book interviews, and colluding with Chinese military officials. Yesterday, Senator Cotton asked you why you haven't resigned, and you said you were not going to resign just because the president didn't take your advice. Well, I submit to you, sir, that you should resign because of your dereliction of duty to this country and your inability to do your job and protect this country. It has become abundantly clear that the American people have completely lost confidence in your ability to do your job. General Milley, will you now resign?
I serve at the pleasure of the President, Mr. Jackson.
I yield back my time.
Thank you. And just for the record, on that date in question, what Chairman Milley was doing is he was appearing before this committee at our request and answering the questions that we asked him. And I appreciate his willingness and the willingness of all the leadership to appear before us. That is an incredibly important part of their job, and I don't want to leave any of you with the impression that we don't want you to do it just because of questions like that. Mr. Cayley is recognized for 5 minutes.